There's a moment before the jump, standing on the edge looking down, I found myself thinking, why should I do it? It's going to be so cold. I'm going to tell you why, but first, I want to ask you a question. When was the last time you did something that made you uncomfortable? Not unsafe, just uncomfortable. Something just a bit outside your comfort zone. And what made you actually do it? About a year ago, I found myself sitting in a writing workshop. Now, if you know me, this makes no sense. I'm a neuroscience major. Creative writing, not exactly my comfort zone. But during my study abroad semester in Copenhagen, the song It's My Life by Bon Jovi once played, and I decided it would become my study abroad song. I listened to it almost every day, and whenever I felt unsure about trying something new, I would think about the lyrics. It's my life, it's now or never, I ain't gonna live forever. I just want to live while I'm alive. It's my life. And very quickly, this song became my motto and did define my study abroad experience. During those 4 months abroad, I was drawn to novelty like never before. I kept saying yes to things that felt different from my normal routine. But honestly, that's not just me. As humans, we're wired to be curious about new experiences. So, this led me to sign up for the writing workshop. At the end of it, we were asked if we wanted to share what we wrote. And somehow, I had written something I was actually proud of. But then came the real challenge, raising my hand. Sharing a creative writing piece, something personal, in front of a room full of people, I had never done that before in my life. It looked more like this. My heart was racing, my hands felt shaky, I even started sweating. That familiar surge hit, fight or flight. This is your body's instant survival mode, preparing you to either face danger or run from it. Every instinct was telling me, don't do this, stay quiet, you're safer that way. And I almost listened to that voice in my head and let it win. But then I remembered something from my neuroscience class. There's this idea that when you step outside your comfort zone, when something feels novel and even a little uncomfortable, your brain is more likely to pay attention and remember it. That discomfort can actually make the experience stick. It was such a good workshop, and I knew I wanted to remember it better. So suddenly, this wasn't just fear. It was an opportunity. And in that moment, I had a choice. I could sit there and let the fear win, or I could treat this like an experiment. In a split second, I raised my hand. And before I could regret it, I was called on to share. As I started reading, I could feel everything. My heartbeat, my voice shaking, the tension in my body. I wasn't calm, I wasn't confident. But the key is that I didn't run from this discomfort. I leaned into it and stayed with it. I observed it as it unfolded moment by moment, and something unexpected happened. I got through it. I survived. That moment, small as it may seem, changed something for me. Because it wasn't just a concept I'd learned in class anymore. I had experienced it in real time. And here's the thing I realized. Stepping outside your comfort zone doesn't have to mean skydiving or doing something extreme. I don't plan on doing that. Sometimes it's something small, almost mundane, like speaking up in a room, trying something new, or doing the thing you usually avoid. But in your brain, those moments can feel like danger. So what is actually happening in your brain when discomfort takes over? When you feel that fear, your brain is reacting as if something is wrong, even when nothing is actually dangerous. Evolutionarily, this makes sense. Your brain is wired to protect you, to avoid pain and maximize survival. But here's the catch. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between physical pain and emotional discomfort. In a study on social exclusion titled "Does Rejection Hurt?", what the researchers found is really fascinating. When people experience social rejection, some of the same brain regions activate as when they experience physical pain. One of these regions is the anterior cingulate cortex, which becomes more active when distress increases. So when you feel excluded, embarrassed, or rejected, your brain is reacting in a way that's similar to physical pain. No wonder it feels so intense. And your body follows. Your nervous system kicks in. Here's a diagram of the nervous system, which is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. I'll focus on the peripheral nervous system, specifically the autonomic nervous system, which includes the sympathetic nervous system. This system is responsible for our fight or flight response, increasing your heart rate, your breathing, and preparing your body to act, to escape or run away. When you sense danger, your brain, especially the amygdala, rapidly detects that threat and triggers this fight or flight response, which is helpful if you're being chased by a lion, but not so helpful when you're just trying to raise your hand in class. So naturally, we avoid discomfort. We stay in our comfort zone because biologically that feels safer. But here's the interesting part. There's another brain region involved, the prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain actually helps regulate that distress. It's like your brain's built-in coping mechanism. When the amygdala also communicates with the prefrontal cortex, which helps interpret and regulate that response. When this region is more active, people report feeling less emotional pain. So on one hand, your brain is sounding the alarm, this matters, pay attention. But on the other hand, it's also trying to calm you down. You can handle it, you're okay. And that balance is exactly what allows us to move through discomfort instead of running away from it. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even though your brain is wired to avoid discomfort, it's also wired for novelty. Your brain loves new experiences. This is where my favorite neurochemical comes in, dopamine. Dopamine isn't just about feeling good. It's also involved in motivation and learning. Another study found that dopamine neurons respond strongly to unexpected rewards and meaningful events. So when something novel or unexpected happens, dopamine signals that it matters, helping your brain learn from that experience and adapt over time through neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is a popular concept in the field of neuroscience to mean that your brain is like plastic and has the ability to adapt and change over time and with new experiences. But there's a paradox. The same experience that feels uncomfortable, that activates fear and even pain systems in your brain, is also the experience that drives learning and growth. So discomfort isn't just something to tolerate. It's something your brain actually needs. But how do you move through it? This doesn't mean ignoring discomfort or forcing yourself into overwhelming and unsafe situations. It means being able to tell the difference between real danger and perceived threat. Because we tend to think our danger zone is much bigger than it actually is, more often than we realize. The psychologist Lev Vygotsky introduced the idea of the zone of proximal development, that we learn best when something is a bit challenging but still doable. Psychologists call this the optimal learning zone. But the problem is we tend to overestimate our danger zone. We imagine it as this huge space we need to avoid, and we include the optimal learning zone as part of that space. As you can see in this illustration, your comfort zone is in the center, then just outside of that is the optimal learning zone, where things feel a little uncomfortable but still manageable. And only beyond that is the actual danger zone. Every time you take a small step outside your comfort zone, within reason, you're training your brain to enter that optimal learning zone. And slowly, something begins to shift. What once felt scary starts to feel possible. What once felt impossible becomes doable. Going back to that moment when I took a leap of faith into freezing cold water. While outside my comfort zone, after I did it once, I went up to do it again. Because the first time is always the hardest. But once your brain realizes this isn't real danger, what once felt like fear starts to feel like excitement. And that's when you truly start living your life to the fullest. And this can mean different things for you. It doesn't have to be jumping into freezing cold water or giving a TED Talk. Sometimes it's something small, almost mundane, like a conversation. Sometimes we enter conversations that make us nervous. Conversations where we're not sure if we'll be understood. Conversations with people whose experiences, perspectives, and backgrounds are completely different from our own. I remember walking into one of those conversations with my heart racing. I expected it to fail. I expected misunderstanding. I expected distance. But instead, something else happened. We listened. We didn't agree on everything, but we stayed in the conversation. And in doing so, we found something much more important than agreement. We found empathy. We found humanity. That experience taught me something I will carry with me long after college. Growth is not about avoiding discomfort. It's about choosing to stay present in it. And those are exactly the moments when your brain changes. And those are the moments you will remember. Now that is sheer joy. So find the courage and go be uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because that is where growth happens. Because that is where connection happens. And because that is when you truly start living. Remember, it's your life. Thank you.